Hey guys, today I want to talk about how playing video games actually made me better at working with sound, and I want to show you a piece of software that I consider kind of a secret weapon in my workflow. Before we get started, if you like these videos and you want to support my channel, head on over to alexknickerbocker.com. I've got a PayPal donation link as well as a bunch of sound effects that I've curated from my personal library for your royalty-free use. They all come with industry standard metadata and documentation so you can find what you're looking for easily, and I'll be adding more as I go, so don't forget to check back. Okay, so a little bit of background here. I grew up in what I'd consider the golden age of gaming, so I started off on the original Pokemon on Game Boy, graduated to Ocarina of Time and 007 GoldenEye on Nintendo 64, Final Fantasy X on PlayStation 2, the original Halo on the Xbox, and obviously plenty more incredible titles that have come out over the last few years. The last one I really got sucked into was by a company called CD Projekt Red, and it was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. That one, especially from the sound perspective in my book, is kind of a masterpiece. They did a fantastic job at immersing the player in the atmosphere and the environments, really calling attention to the right moments and kind of the right details of the gaming experience as you went, and most importantly doing a fantastic job at telling the story of the game through sound. Needless to say, gaming was a really big driving factor for me to start paying attention to all these little details and subtleties of the soundscape in each experience, and how backgrounds weaved together around a player, and really how everything came together, because there's no production audio in gaming. There's not like a set or anything recorded live. It's all done after the fact. It's basically interactive post-production, but PC gaming specifically gave me a couple of tools that I'm still using to this day, and I didn't even realize I got them at the time. Look at the average gaming setup of anybody who takes it seriously. They have well-calibrated screens, they've got pretty good monitoring systems with professional-sounding headphones and sometimes even pretty robust speaker systems. The average PC gamer is really fast on a keyboard. They've customized their keyboard layouts so they know exactly what does what and where, and they don't even have to look at what they're typing to get things done very, very quickly and efficiently. That is exactly the same thing that goes into doing really any kind of post-production at all, but especially post-production sound. Every software I use has a set of hotkeys that makes things much more quick and effective than using a mouse to do things. And that's true of operating systems too. You can navigate Windows or Mac OS or Linux with hotkeys if you really want to, and it's really pretty fast in comparison to working with a mouse. Just as an example, I'll show you how I navigate my file systems. I'll open up a new Finder window here and show you where I keep my session templates. So I'll go into my user folder, and under my name, I've got a work folder here with the template section embedded. So here are all my session templates. Let's check out my sessions for a post-production sound 5.1 mix. Here they all are: BGs, dialogue, Foley, sound effects, a master mix template, and a music template. Now I know my machine, so I can get around it pretty quickly, but with hotkeys I can make that even faster. I'll start again with a new Finder window, and the hotkey to get to my home folder is just Command-Shift-H on the Mac. The work folder's where I've got everything stored, so I can type WO and it'll take me down to that. Command-Down will open the folder. In my templates section, I can just hit T for templates, Command down again, and here I am at my file hierarchies. So again, S for sessions, Command down, down for post, Command down, and here I am with all of my various templates that I wanted to work with. Now, let me show you this again fast. Back to my new Finder window, Home, Work, Templates, Sessions, Post, and here I am. So again, way faster with hotkeys, and that's a huge component of how I work within Pro Tools and how you can speed up any of your workflows with video or sound as well. So let me show you a couple of the basic things that I do in Pro Tools that I've sped up with hotkeys too. Let's say I'm working on background sounds and I need to cut a particular file to line up with some in and out points in picture. The tool to do that is called the trimmer in Pro Tools, and I can select that with the mouse and then just grab the in point and grab the out point, and I'll drag so that my files are lining up with where I might want them to be hypothetically. Using a mouse to do this is fine, but hundreds of times per hour, that's going to get really tedious. So again, one of those great practice moments of all that gaming coming in handy, using hotkeys now. That same task can be accomplished with hotkeys way more quickly. I need to have the selector tool highlighted so that I can actually select time on my timeline. That's just F7 as the hotkey in Pro Tools. I can click and drag to select an area and then hit Command T to trim my region exactly to where I need it to be. Alternatively, I can also just drop my cursor and hit A to trim the head of my region, drop my cursor again and hit S to trim the tail of the region, and I'm in pretty good shape. Then if I really want to be fancy, which I do, I'll hit 3 to zoom in, I'll Option Tab back to the very beginning of the region and hit plus on the number pad to get one frame ahead, and I'll create a fade on the very, very start of this region so it doesn't click or pop on. I can do the same thing on the back end by hitting Tab, minus on the number pad, and G. Those are the hotkeys in Pro Tools specifically. But again, these same principles apply. You can do this with hotkeys in pretty much any software. So it makes it really, really quick and easy to create fades or edit sound or really manipulate audio in any way. So I'll back this out one more time and show you quickly. I'll select my area, hit Command T to trim, 3 to zoom in, plus and D to get a fade, minus and G to get another fade, and that trims my region to exactly where I wanted it to be. So learning your software's hotkeys can really speed up your workflow, but gamers take it a step further and implement what are called macros. If you're not already familiar with the term, a macro is a simple command that executes a string of different actions, and it's not just limited to, say, the /dance macro in World of Warcraft. So I learned all these hotkeys and I got pretty fast, but I kept thinking there's gotta be a way to push the boundary a little bit more, you know? We can make it faster, we have the technology. And luckily there's software out there that does exactly that. So I wanna show you a little tiny bit of what I consider one of my secret weapons, and that's an application called Hotkeys. Hotkeys is a macro software that allows you to chain a bunch of commands together so you can execute them faster than you'd ever be able to operate a keyboard or a mouse. Now, this is admittedly some older software, and there are newer and more robust pieces out there like Keyboard Maestro, for example, which is a great alternative. Each of these softwares works a little bit differently, but the principles are all the same, and they can speed up your work so much by automating a whole bunch of repetitive tasks. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I've used Hotkeys, and we'll see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Now, I have a lot of macros programmed in, but one of my favorite ones is for cutting audio in Pro Tools. Let's take a look at that same background sound from before, and let's say I didn't like the placement of my fades, or I didn't like where I trimmed my audio to. Now, there's no hotkey to delete a fade in Pro Tools, so if I wanted to do that natively, I'd have to go through a bunch of menus and select it, or I'd have to trim the fade off and then extend it back out and do something kind of dumb. Instead, what I can do is map the hotkey in Hotkeys to whatever I want. In this case, Command-Shift-Delete, and it just deletes the fade for me. And let's say I wanted the audio to start a little bit earlier. I've mapped a really quick hotkey to extend the head of a region using Command-Control-Option-, and it just grabs and extends the region to exactly where I need. Another macro I really like is for when I'm starting a new project. Now, I have a really specific way of managing files and folder hierarchies, and it's really tedious to create that from scratch every single time, renaming files and organizing stuff in a particular way. So I made a macro for it. Now let me walk you through exactly how I organize these files. At the very top level, I've got the name of whatever it is that I'm working on, and within that folder, I have any deliverables that I'm receiving from editors or sending to the editors that I work with. I've got my dailies folder, which is for my sound rolls, any recorded sound effects from set, and any documentation that a sound mixer might provide to me. I've got a deliverables folder with a version number of whatever we're working on, plus the file formats that I need to deliver, both surround sound and stereo. On top of that, I've got a folder for any documentation that's provided, like spotting notes or notes from a director or an editor on what specific creative decisions they want. And then I've got an editorial folder with, again, matching version numbers, and each editorial section is broken into a different session. So I've got a background edit session for Pro Tools, I've got a dialogue edit session, Foley, sound effects, music, etc. If I need to handle a whole bunch of different deliverable formats, I've got an encode folder, which allows me to create LTRTs or anything Dolby encoded, plus a mix folder with my master mix session where I'll marry all of the various different assets that I've been working on, again, backgrounds, Foley, sound effects, music, dialogue, etc., into one single session, and of course anything I receive in an OMF or AAF from a picture editor, and the video files of picture itself. Now, every time I start a new project, I could just copy this show folder and rename it to whatever the project's name is, but I want to make sure that all of my editorial sessions are also named appropriately, and my master mix session is named appropriately too, so that I have file consistency and organization down. I'll flip over to where I keep my active projects, and I'll show you how this hotkey works. Control-Option-Command-N followed by F brings up a naming dialog that I can choose the name of whatever my project is going to be. So I'll just say test 1, 2, 3 and hit enter. And as that happens, you notice a show folder was created and then renamed to test123. Now, this is the cool part, or I guess as cool as file management can be. If I go into my test123 root directory and I go to my editorial folder into the correct version, you'll notice it's named every single folder with that name, and all of the session files have been named with test123 and the date that they were created. And that goes for every single one of these sessions in all of my session folders, as well as my master mix template. So with one simple action, I've been able to rename every single one of the relevant files that I'm going to want to work in with the date and the name of the project, so I will never lose track of what I'm doing. Now, to be honest, that required a little bit of Apple scripting to do, so this isn't for the computer illiterate necessarily, but again, it was so worth learning a little bit of that because it shaved that 10 minutes of time that I'd spend creating folder hierarchies and renaming files and sorting everything down to 5 seconds of typing a name, and that's it. So hopefully this gives you some ideas to explore, implement in your own workflows, whether it's learning the hotkeys of your software and getting quicker there, or getting more complex and introducing macros too. If you want, leave a comment below with the most repetitive thing you find yourself doing in your workflows. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, hit subscribe. I'm over on Instagram at AXK, so come follow me over there. And as always, thanks for watching.